I understand you have some questions for me. Well, let's go for a ride, shall we? All right. I was born in Tucson, Arizona, which is sort of the butthole of Arizona. Well, that's not true. That's probably Douglas, Arizona, but Tucson's pretty close. All Tucson hate aside, I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona until about 3 days after I turned 18, when I left for home, as one does. From there, I lived a short time in Columbus, Georgia, and then went to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Now, some of you may know what that means. The rest of you just know that it was for a government work job. Matter of fact, the only one that you can get when you're 18. Now, I never really went anywhere and did anything cool during my time in North Carolina, and eventually I came back home. I spent the next few years trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do with my life. Now, something to know about me is that I was always fascinated by history growing up. And now I had a better sense of the person I was and a vastly improved work ethic and understanding of my capabilities. So I called my dad up one night and said, "You know, I think I want to be a historian." To that, he replied, "Why?" I said, "Well, I'm really into history and I miss being out in the field and getting my hands dirty. I think I'd like to go out and explore and find things." To that he said, "I think you want to be an archaeologist." So I looked it up and he was correct. That is exactly what I wanted to do. So later I did some research to find places to learn how to be an archaeologist, and come to find out one of the best, and because I was a resident of Arizona, cheapest options was to go to Pima Community College. They had a pretty extensive archaeological curriculum with options for direct hire. Now, they really specialize in the American Southwest, and I really didn't want to do archaeology in the American Southwest. I wanted to dig in Greece. But one of the instructors that I had a meeting with told me something that ended up being incredibly true, which is, if you can do archaeology in the Southwest, you can do archaeology anywhere. And she's right. Archaeology in the American Southwest, especially in the Tucson Basin, is pretty difficult. Everything looks like dirt. So I signed up for a couple classes just to sort of get my feet wet and see how well I liked it. And I absolutely loved and excelled at it. It should come to no surprise to you, the viewer, that I ended up sticking with it. Shortly after my first semester, I was recruited into a cultural resource management or CRM firm, but I didn't actually do my first job until about a year after I started school. Later, I worked 2 seasons teaching Boy Scouts about archaeology at Philmont Boy Scout Ranch, where I first learned of interpretation and got my first taste of educating the public. I graduated Pima Community College in 2017 with 2 associate's degrees and a handful of direct employment certificates. I still had a desire, however, to do ancient Greek archaeology, but I was starting to learn that I had a knack for both public speaking and finding creative ways of doing interpretation. Following someone's recommendation from Philmont, I applied at the National Park Service as an interpretive park ranger and was immediately hired to the first place I ever applied to. I ended up working for the National Park Service for a few years, going to places such as New Mexico, Wyoming, and even spending a year in the Virgin Islands. But I learned something during my time in the Federal Service, and that was unless you have a bachelor's degree at a minimum, you don't really get taken seriously by archaeologists. So I decided to go back to school and ended up at the University of Arizona, double majoring in classical civilizations and anthropology with an archaeology focus, keeping in mind that at this point I had several years of experience as an archaeologist and many years of consuming information regarding ancient Greece. So it was no surprise that I did just fine with those degrees. And about 3/4 of the way through my schooling, I decided to start this YouTube channel because I recognized that there was something missing with YouTube and archaeology, and I felt that my unique set of skills would fill that hole pretty well. Now, before you go into the comment section and tell me about all the other channels that deal with archaeology, I know about that. But what I was looking for was things like has anyone built Knossos in Minecraft or something like that? And I didn't really find anything. So I saw my opportunity and I took it. Yeah, this will definitely do. Yeah, this is really nice out here. Just so YouTube does not demonetize me for this video, this is a soda, not a beer. Soda. Okay, it's a Mexican soda. If you can find them in your town, I definitely recommend them. They got a whole bunch of different flavors, but it is a soda, not alcohol. So please, for God's sakes, don't demonetize me for that. Okay. Now, I answered some questions on the way up here. Let's see here. Did I get everything or did I miss anything? No. All right. Yeah, looks like I got everything. So, all right. So to answer your questions about archaeology, let's go ahead and shift over to Daskalos, who's currently in the field. Daskalos, take it away. Hold on. Okay then. How are you? Cool. Yeah, way cool. Oh, he's back. So, I just came in from the field. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Let's get started. Have you or your team ever found something that's legitimately impacted people's view of history in a serious way? What was it? No. No, we haven't. It'd be cool, but no, we haven't. Next question. Have you ever been in a situation where natural events or disasters have messed up dig sites? And yes, I have. For 2 seasons, I was at a Philmont Boy Scout ranch. Some of you may recognize me from that. If so, welcome. And I had an excavation that was going on, and the rains came in, totally washed down a bunch of silt and dirt and completely reburied my excavation. Yeah, it sucked, but it did. I had something kind of destroy. It didn't really destroy it. It messed it up. I had to re-dig it again to the spots that we were at and then continue on. But basically, yeah, I have. It was not fun. So let's get into some topics. I've clumped together some of your questions because a lot of them have very similar themes. This one's going to be called Findings. So, what would be the strangest or most unexpected thing in your opinion that you found as an archaeologist? Golf balls. Yeah, they're everywhere. Golf balls. Also, the cores of batteries, like AAA and AA batteries, they're everywhere too. I don't know what you guys do with your golf balls or your batteries, but apparently chucking them into the middle of nowhere is a valid strategy, apparently. Is there anything that you found that has surprised you in how a similar, dissimilar culture or civilization was compared? Okay, this one, yes. Let me see. Mugs. Mugs are everywhere through all time periods. You have them in the Americas, you have them everywhere. The Vafeo cup, which is an ancient Greek thing, Bronze Age thing, it's a mug. The ancestral Puebloans of the American Southwest have mugs. They're all mugs. Apparently, a small round cup with a handle that you can grab is universal to all cultures, everywhere. And it makes sense. It's a very utility type thing, but yeah, mugs. While digging up any sites, have you accidentally found anything extinct? Yes. kind of neat. I was in a canyon, sandstone canyon. Up on the top of the canyon was a bunch of sandstone that had fossilized leaves, leaf imprints on them, and in one of the sites that I was excavating, we actually found one on the floor of a prehistoric home, which means that someone in antiquity went up there, saw it, thought it was cool, and brought it back down, which is pretty cool. It just means humans have been humans. They see something cool and they take it. What would you say is your favorite excavation you've worked on? Either because of the people, or stuff, yeah. I honestly think that the excavations at Philmont so far have been my favorite, but I also haven't done a lot of excavation, and we'll get into why that is later on during the misconceptions portion. The neat thing about Philmont was that it was a excavation that was all mine, and it had a public aspect to it where I had scouts come up and I taught them about archaeology, and then very closely monitored them while they themselves excavated. And it was a really cool time because they would dig things up, and in the screens they would find them and their eyes would light up. It was a very cool time because you could see that initial spark of archaeology sort of manifesting itself. Moving on. What is the funniest, most unexpected thing you found in archaeology? Golf balls. Yeah, golf balls. Did you ever have a moment where something didn't make sense in a place it was found but clicked later? Fixing a bunch of problems? Not really. I did have something that I found. It was a chipped axe head that was broken in half. And I didn't notice it at the time, but when I got back to the lab and was looking it over, it was purposefully broken. It actually had the scar on it that showed that it was hit with another stone and purposefully broken, which opens up a ton of possibilities that could have been why they did that. Your imagination can run wild with it. What is the most interesting artifact or site you've ever excavated? I've been asked that a lot as an archaeologist, and I guess it really depends on what you think of as interesting or cool, or however you want to phrase it. A couple things come to mind. The broken axe, for obvious reasons. I once found an obsidian projectile point, so arrowhead to some of you. It was about this big, and it had thinning flakes going across the face of it in a very even pattern, and it was so thin that you could see through it. There's no way you could use it for what a projectile point is supposed to be used for. And the amount of effort that went into making that was incredible. So it was a very highly skilled person making it, and they were making it not for use, which is what makes it really cool. So it was for looks only, and I thought that was kind of a neat thing. Have you ever lied about finding something, like ever? No, I have not. And there's a reason why. There is nothing to be gained from lying about something that you have found, or lying that you have found something. Because archaeologists are, well, sometimes they're jerks, and they like to fact check each other, or they like to double check things, and it will never really work to your benefit to say, yes, I found this, because someone's always going to doubt that and check it. Also, a lot of the work that I've done has been for government entities, so contract-wise. So we get contracted to check something for, let's say, BLM, Forest Service, something like that. The archaeologists are actually going to double check our work because they have to. So if you lie and say you found a Clovis point, which is a really old projectile point, in a certain site, they're going to want to see that. So no, I've never lied about anything I've found. Ever. Moving on, let's go to some regular questions now. What would the archaeological process be like if they found a ruin on Mars? And following questions too. I've actually talked about this a lot with friends of mine. I think that is going to be an emerging science as humans sort of get out into space. Because with all the worlds, all the inhabitable worlds, and for as long and as old as the universe is, we're eventually going to find remnants of a civilization. And what that is going to look like, the archaeology, what that's going to look like, I have no idea. Are they going to be doing the same stuff that we've done before? Stone tools? Are they going to be building things like how we've done before? Don't know. It's hard because you can't base what we do or the idea of what we would find based off of what we've done in the past. So I think it's a really neat idea. I don't think we're going to use rovers, to be honest with you. I really don't think we're going to use rovers to do any of that. I think it's going to be boots on the ground, actual archaeologists doing it. Because I think by the time that we go to find, by the time we find evidence of an ancient civilization or a past civilization like that we were going to actually do any kind of archaeology, we're going to have the technology to get out there. But xenoarchaeology is something that I've really thought of a lot, and I think it's a really cool idea. And I'm glad you brought it up because that is awesome. I think it's a really cool thing that's gonna be something in the future. Do archaeologists eventually run out of ancient sites to excavate within an area of expertise? They could, absolutely. It all depends, though, what your area of expertise is, because what is considered to be an archaeological site, or how old something has to be considered to be an archaeological site, is always moving forward, because it's anything that's 50 years old, and I'll get to that a little bit later on too. So, well, at least in America. Other places it's different. So it all depends. A lot of these questions are going to be, it all depends. The answer is going to just be about, it all depends. So, I mean, eventually, yeah, they will. If their area of expertise is running out of stuff to dig up, yeah, maybe they need to think about hitting another expertise. Break time. Let's go ahead and answer some questions real quick. All right. If you were to call your fan community a name, Taylor Swift has the Swifties, what would you call us? I'd call you the Swifties. No, I wouldn't call you the Swifties. No, I don't know. Bronze Tribe, maybe? I mean, but we're going to get into the classical era at some point. So, I mean, that's probably not a good one. Methetes, the Greek word for student. I don't know. What do you think I should call you? Should we even call you anything? It's kind of weird, right? I don't know. It's, anyways, yeah, I don't know. No, that's a good question. I don't know what I would call you. Do you have a favorite fossil Pokemon? If so, which one and why? I don't. I actually don't. Unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Pokemon was never really something I got into. When it became pretty big in America, I was just kind of not really into it. Same thing with Power Rangers too, which is weird because as an adult, I'm starting to appreciate it, things like that a little bit more, the weird campy stuff. But anyways, yeah, no, I don't have a favorite fossil Pokemon or any Pokemon. Sorry. I'll tell you what, let's get back to other Daskalos. What advice would you give somebody who's absolutely fascinated by history and archaeology but can't handle going through academia again? Join the Park Service. Become an interpretive park ranger and do that. If you really love archaeology, if you really love history, do that. You are going to be teaching, granted, you're going to be teaching the public about this stuff, but you are going to have a wealth of knowledge thrown at you. And the programs that you can give in the Park Service are endless. Join the Park Service as an interpretive park ranger or an interpretive guide and do that. That is what I would suggest. If you don't want to go back to school, that's what you should do. What advice would you give for a student archaeologist who's trying to find their specialty region of study? I once heard somebody tell me that if you wanted to know what it is that you should do for a profession, think about what you would do if money was never an issue. What would you do if money was never an issue? Sort of the same idea for this too. If you want to figure out what your specialty is, think about if making money and living, making enough money to live off of wasn't an issue, what would your specialty be? What really gets you going? What do you like? And then come up with a backup that you can actually make money at. Okay? That's what I do. Classical archaeologist, I work in the American Southwest. American Southwest pays the bills. Classical archaeology, well, doesn't unless you're much higher up with your degree. Did you accidentally open a sealed Egyptian tomb late in 2019 that caused the events of 2020 and beyond to transpire? No comment. Student in archaeology here. What do you think will be the new tools we develop in the near future? Okay, so actually I was just talking about this with the crew that I was working with. I think two things are going to be the next big technology with archaeology, mostly for survey. Drones, that's pretty much already coming up. There have been times where we needed to survey a spot up high, couldn't get to. Drones are going to be the future there. Second thing, wearables. Okay, so a pair of glasses that you wear that has a heads-up display that tells you what your UTMs are and your GPS, will overlay a path for you along your transect. Maybe has a camera in it so you can take pictures of artifacts as you take them up. Maybe has a little voice recorder so you can actually do things like that. I think wearables are the next thing. I think that's the next big thing. And if any of you tech-savvy people want to talk with me a little bit more about that, hit me up on my Discord, and yeah, let's get some stuff going. What qualifications do you need to become an archaeologist? Well, you need to have a degree, specifically in anthropology with an archaeology focus, but not necessarily. I was recruited directly out of community college without a degree. Granted, I showed some promise and I kind of picked it up pretty quick, but basically, you need to have some field experience under your belt. You can get that through a field school or by doing any kind of field classes at like a local college or university. An associate's degree is probably a good idea. Bachelor's is even better, but you don't have to have that to be an archaeologist. Nowadays, it's getting harder and harder to get work without those degrees, but you can do it. The community college I went to in Tucson, Arizona, called Pima Community College, has one of the best field programs, in my opinion, in the country. And when I graduated there with an associate's degree, I had probably about a good 6 months worth of field experience just from those classes. I was recruited directly out of Pima Community College before I had my associate's degree. So, you can do it, but if you're wanting to get work in the CRM field or some other kind of field like that, associates or bachelors at a minimum. If you're wanting to get federal work, like with the Park Service or Forest Service or BLM, bachelors at a minimum. And that's an anthropology degree with an archaeology focus, and probably a field school too. If you had the chance to redo any historical excavation with modern day knowledge, okay, which one would you choose? Troy. Absolutely, Troy. And before any of you Schliemann haters get into the comments and start typing, stop typing right now. Schliemann did some things wrong on that excavation, but archaeologists dropped the ball, okay? He actually went to archaeologists asking for help, and they told him no. They told him he was an idiot. He decided to do it himself without any kind of archaeology experience. We could have helped him, but we didn't. So if I could go back in time and do any excavation, absolutely Troy. I think we would know so much more than we know now. Yeah. What was the scariest thing that's happened to you and your team during an excavation? Excavation? Nothing really. Survey, flash flood. Me and a team were in a sandstone, or kind of a sandstony, bedrocky type canyon, and it started to rain. And we started to get out of there, but it was starting to get worse and worse, and it started flowing. You know, there was a little bit of a stream flowing in the canyon, and so we just basically scaled the walls to get out. And by the time we got back to the vehicle, the canyons were flowing, like flowing with debris, whole trees and things like that floating down them. So that was pretty scary because I was with a bunch of people who were not familiar with the American Southwest, and so when I mentioned flash flooding, they didn't really believe me. And they only believed me when they saw how quickly a very small stream of water coming down the sides of the canyon became a rushing sort of flow. So yeah, that was fun. What would you do if you ever came across an Indiana Jones style ruin with traps? Document it. That's what we do. We document. Granted, anything that would have traps like that would not probably work anymore. Traps like that don't really exist. So, hate to get your hopes up, but if we came across ruins, we would document them, and if they had any kind of interesting things like sprung traps or traps that would have been sprung had they still sort of worked, that would be a really cool thing to document. And it would be, I mean, that's like thesis material right there. Okay, that's doctoral thesis material is traps like that. So that's what would happen in the real world. We would document. What's exactly the career you studied? Since you're an expert on classical archaeology, oh, I'm an expert now. Well, thank you. Please continue. I'm fascinated by your channel. Oh, well, thank you. I studied classical philosophy. Oh, there you go. All right, well, no, I'm just messing with you. What exactly is the career you studied? Well, in community college, I studied what is considered, what is called CRM archaeology, cultural resource management. And that is basically, you know, somebody wants to build a mall out in the middle of nowhere, they have to hire archaeologists to do a survey of the site. And so they contact firms that have archaeologists on staff, or they float out a job and everyone bids on it, and we go and survey that stuff. That's CRM archaeology. There's some other things to it too, but that's the big gist of what CRM archaeology is. That's what I started doing. And then I did CRM archaeology, but I always wanted to do, you know, the classical world archaeology. And that's something that fascinated me, and that's something that I studied up on a lot in my own time, to the point where when I went back to school to get my bachelor's, I didn't really need to take notes. Half of the books that were, you know, assigned reading, I owned already, and I had read cover to cover. So, so my associate's degrees are in anthropology with a cultural focus, anthropology with an archaeological focus. I have 3 different certificates as well, for direct employment, which is GIS, which is basically digital mapping, field techniques, and lab techniques. And then for a bachelor's degree, I have a double major in classical civilizations and anthropology with an archaeological focus. So that is the career that I studied, is archaeology. I purposefully kept it sort of broad in order to be hireable, to be bankable, to have bankable skills. And so far it's worked out pretty well for me, since I've done some CRM archaeology. I've worked for the Park Service, not as an archaeologist, as a park ranger, interpretive park ranger, and I've done some other things as well. I'm a very bankable person that can be used in many different fields for whatever. I mean, heck, I've got this YouTube channel doing this thing right now, and so that's pretty bankable too. At least some people think so. However, before I get on to the misconceptions and grave robbing topic, I'm absolutely disgusting and gross. It was a long, nasty day. I'm gonna clean up. So, other Daskalos, I don't know, entertain them while I go do this. All right, be right back. Okay then. Wow, I kind of put on the spot. Tell you what, why don't I answer some of your Minecraft questions, right? Let's do that. Best way to answer your Minecraft questions is, well, all right, first question. If you continued the excavation series, would you consider structures like ocean ruins? I think it'd be neat to see your interpretations of them. Well, you know, that question comes up an awful lot in the excavation series. And to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't. I mean, I could from an, like an archaeologist standpoint, but I mean, there's nothing really to be discovered. There's nothing to be dug up or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really think there's much that I could do. There's not a lot of stuff there that would give me sort of clues as to what it was used in the past. And some of these things are still being used. I don't know. Probably not, but you never know. The next ones are actually a bunch that I'm going to kind of group together. So it's all about archaeology in Minecraft. What is the most unrealistic part of the trail ruins? What is something that you think would make archaeology in Minecraft more realistic, or wish other people knew? How would you change how trail ruins are structure generated? All that stuff. Archaeology designed with a realism over gameplay mentality. Okay, so let's just go ahead and tackle this right now. What is the most unrealistic part of the trail ruins you're excavating? And that is how deep they are. They are incredibly deep. Each block is a 1 meter cube, and I was going down 30, 40 meters to excavate the ruins, and that's not really realistic. Now, I know some of you are already typing away in the comments, yes, there are sites that are buried pretty deep, but that is not very common. The common thing is to have sort of a semi-dispersed site, or having a site that's sort of still there but not as tall, with very few exceptions. The way I would change the trail ruins is I would actually make them a little bit more shallow, and I would make probably, if they were on flat ground, I would make a hill up and over them. And I think that's a little bit more realistic. You had the one building that has a basement, and if that sunk in and got covered with dirt, you would have a depression in the ground. You have the tower and another building that are right next to each other, and a lot of that wall would probably support itself. So the tower, even though the tower wouldn't completely be there, you'd probably have a taller spot right there. But generally speaking, it wouldn't be nearly as tall as it is in the game, and some of it would be covered up, but it'd be a little bit more dispersed. The foundations would definitely be there. Once you removed some of the fallen material and the dirt that covered it, you would actually be able to see the foundations a little bit better. And using the materials that were around each of the buildings, you could sort of formulate what comprised the construction of that building. I don't know if that makes much sense. Maybe I'll get into it a little bit later. The other thing is that, I keep getting asked this idea about archaeology in Minecraft and reality and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, the developers, and this is going to be something that not a lot of people are going to agree with me on, but the developers actually took a very realistic aspect to archaeology, air quotes, in Minecraft, in that the ruins are just there. And, in the real world, you have archaeological sites just there. And you have people that come across them and take things and steal things. They don't have the incentive to do things the proper way in the real world, with exception, of course, to, laws and stuff like that. So I think the developers actually got that part right, because the average player comes across the trail ruins and thinks, oh, stuff, and they loot it. And that's kind of how it's always been for a long time. Now, I think that if and I don't know how they would do this, but if the developers somehow made an incentive for systematically excavating, I think that would be a cool way to go. I don't know how they would do that, though. I'm not really sure what the whole process of that would be. It's a tough one, but generally speaking, I think they got it pretty much, you know, accurate in that ruins are just there, and you know, people can loot it, and that kind of sucks in the real world. Actually, it sucks a lot in the real world, and it only kind of sucks in the Minecraft world. But there are no real repercussions in the Minecraft world for looting it. So yeah, I think they actually kind of knocked that one out of the park, with exception, of course, to design. Yeah, I'm still here. Let's answer some questions. Do you have any hobbies besides what you were showing us in your videos? So besides geology and Minecraft and things, geology, I think you meant archaeology, not geology. Yeah, actually I do. Obviously, that. I'm a motorcyclist. I like to do motorcycle things. I write, I draw, mostly pen and ink. That's actually what got me to be semi-lucrative in the archaeology world when it comes to jobs, is I did hand-drawn maps, and nobody really likes doing hand-drawn maps for some reason, but I did, so I got hired a lot because of that. But yeah, I mean, standard guy stuff, you know, camping, hiking, shooting, peeing in the woods, that kind of thing. But other than that, yeah. Oh, I took up carving once for a little while, so I can kind of do that. Yeah. I mean, just some random stuff, but mostly motorcycling, riding, drawing. Let's see here. Celebrity crush. Okay, so look, I'm kind of an older dude. I'm not like that old, but I'm kind of older, and crush is sort of like a kid thing, and you know, I mean, I wouldn't say that anything I have is like a crush, because that seems semi-juvenile, and I don't know, I don't see. All right, fine. Celebrity crush, Selena Gomez. Not only is she absolutely stunning, but the way that she reacts to people who, you know, try to criticize her about her body, what she wears, how she does things, is just top notch. Yeah, that's my kind of woman. So anyways, and I'm not that much older than her anyways, so yeah. But here's the thing, it doesn't really matter, right? Because, well, she doesn't watch this channel, at least I don't think she does. And you know, I'm kind of a nobody. She's a singer and actress, and so, you know, I'm just some random pasty white guy with a YouTube channel who also does kind of cool stuff out in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, so it doesn't really matter. And don't go and harass her, for God's sakes, if you do know her. Though if you do know her. Anyways, all right, let's see here. Classic question for me to ask: potatoes or salad? Well, I guess, you know, the college answer, of course, would be potato salad, but we're not going to do that because that's a cop-out. We're going to draw a hard line in the sand. Potatoes or salad here. And I guess potatoes, they're a lot more versatile, though, I suppose, if salad is going to be sort of a general term, like the greens and also potato salad, macaroni and salad, stuff like that, taco salad, you know, I'd have to go with salad if we're going to go for a general term. But if we're going for precise terms, I'm going to go with potatoes. God, I sound like a psychopath. Okay, you know what, tell you what, let's get back to the Minecraft Osculus and see what he's up to. What tool, building block, or machine or game mechanic would you as an archaeologist want to see added to Minecraft in order to enhance survival gameplay, but be related to pre-industrial civilization? That's a really good question, and when I first read that, I thought about it a lot. And to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, you know, we have horses, and the ability to put chests on donkeys. Maybe like horse-drawn carriages, that would be kind of cool. You know, we have chest boats. and it would kind of be the same thing. You could pretty much just take a chest boat and put 2 sticks on it that, went to the horse and a couple wheels, and it'd probably work. But yeah, maybe a horse-drawn weapon or a horse-drawn wagon. Yeah, I don't know. Ooh, spears. Spears would be nice. They have swords and they have axes, but swords didn't really come first. Spears were first, generally speaking. Spears are easier to make. You can make more of them. For a single sword, you can make 5 or 6 spears, right? And spears are very handy. I mean, it's basically a knife on a stick. And so if you have things like boars or, in Minecraft what would be hostile mobs, you can hit them from farther away. And it's not archery, it's not atlatls or anything like that. So you're not really reaching really far out there, but you can keep things at a distance. And I think, spears would probably be a good addition to the game. You know what? The ability to break things down. I mean, how many times have you killed a skeleton in the game, not in real life? Why? How many times have you killed a skeleton in real life? I mean, you know what? Don't answer that. Don't answer that. In the game, how many times have you killed a skeleton and got a bow, but you already have a bow? It would be nice if, let's say, you need a fishing pole, you could take that bow that skeleton dropped and break it down into its individual components like sticks and string. And then you could use those to make a fishing rod. Or how many times have you, I don't know, accidentally made, a stack of buttons rather than sticks or whatever, I think breaking stuff down into its individual components would be awesome. You can take string and make wool, but it'd be nice to be able to shear a sheep and get a whole bunch of string from it. Again, for a fishing rod or something. Anyways, that would kind of be I'm kind of going on a rant there. The ability to... copper tools and weapons. Copper. I mean, we go from stone to iron. There was a whole age in the middle there that they totally skipped, which is bronze, but it's fine. We could go with copper instead. Copper tools and weapons or copper armor. That'd be kind of nice. Anyways, I could probably go on a rant like this for a long time, so let's just move on. Okay, I'm back. I've cleaned up. I've had some dinner. Let's get back into it. Next set of topics is going to be misconceptions and grave robbing. All right. Firing it off is, what is the most significant misconception non-archaeologists have about archaeology? Really, there's 2. The first is that we have something to do with dinosaurs. Archaeology is not about dinosaurs. 0 dinosaurs, okay? Archaeology is the study of human culture through its material remains. Human culture, not dinosaurs. No dinosaurs. Not your fault if you think that archaeology has something to do with dinosaurs. That is all pretty much the media, Hollywood, all that stuff. There's always somebody in some movie who's an archaeologist digging up dinosaurs. So, not your fault, but we don't do it. There are some questions here about dinosaurs, so don't be upset if I'm a little snippy with them. It's just really frustrating to have everyone assume that you dig up dinosaurs when you don't. Okay? Second misconception is that archaeology is all about excavation. And the truth is pretty far from that. In my career as an archaeologist, out of 100% of the time of doing archaeology, about 90% of that is what is called survey, where you and a crew, like for example, the crew that I'm working with now, which is 4 people, so a total of 4, so 3 other people, you line up in a line, certain distance apart, and you go in a straight line and you look for stuff. You look for artifacts and features and things that might tell you that there's an archaeological site or there's some sort of isolated occurrence right there, okay? Of the remainder 10%, I would say 5% of that is excavation, maybe a little less, And the other 5% is what is called monitoring, maybe a little more than 5%. And what monitoring is let's say you have a gas line crew digging up a gas line or water main or something like that. They sometimes will need an archaeologist there to watch what it is that they're digging up, and in case anything cultural comes up, we hop down in there with them, check it out, and determine from there what to do next. A lot of times we just document and then continue on. Occasionally, there will be something pretty significant that we have to halt that particular section of digging, and they can just move to another section with another archaeologist while we continue what we got to do. But anyways, that's a whole different thing. So anyways, second misconception is that archaeology is a lot about excavation. A lot of people ask me about excavation, but again, to be honest, 90% of what I've done has been survey. So there you have it. So let's move on to these next 4 questions that are all kind of clumped together because they're very similar. What are your thoughts on paleontology? If you snuck into a paleontology dig site, how long would you last before you got found out? How similar, unsimilar are archaeology and paleontology? What are your thoughts on dinosaurs? Okay. What are your thoughts on paleontology and dinosaurs? I don't care. Some of that's probably tainted by the fact that so many people think that we dig up dinosaurs, and so anytime dinosaurs or paleontology is brought up, I have a knee-jerk reaction to absolutely hate it or be in a bad mood. But generally speaking, I don't really care for paleontology. It's just not a thing. When I was younger, a lot younger, I was into dinosaurs, but at no point did I think that dinosaurs and archaeology were the same thing. So yeah, paleontology, I could really care less for. If I snuck into a paleontology dig site, how long would I last? I don't know. I'm actually pretty good at bullshitting my way through stuff, so maybe good long time. Vice versa though, I don't think a paleontologist would last as an archaeologist at an excavation because they're just so different, I would think. I don't know. Maybe they're similar. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Which leads to the next question. How similar, unsimilar are archaeology and paleontology on a deeper level? I don't know what you mean by on a deeper level, but I can tell you I don't know paleontology on a deeper level. We're not on speaking terms. So, What are your thoughts on dinosaurs? Don't care. And lastly, Jurassic Park, yes or no? Great movies. I've read the book. So, there you have it. Sorry if that upset any of you who asked those questions, but I don't really care about paleontology or dinosaurs. So, moving on. This is a long one. How long would one of these more modern sites need to sit to be of interest to an archaeologist? This actually goes along with another one. At what point in time does grave robbing become archaeology, or is that an ambiguous area? It's not an ambiguous area. Sometimes it is. So let me just quickly go over sort of the difference between grave robbing and archaeology. Grave robbing, you are digging stuff up for profit, and you are not caring where it comes from. Archaeology, you are systematically excavating, digging things up, but it's a very controlled method. You are documenting everything, and you are not profiting off of those artifacts directly. Big difference. As for the time frame that something would need to be in the ground before it's considered archaeology, this is generally, in America, 50 years. 50 years, and then it becomes archaeology. Now, does that mean anything over 50 years old in the ground is not grave robbing? And the answer is no. That does not mean that. There are plenty of cultures out there that still consider what archaeologists do, no matter how they do it, to be grave robbing. And that's okay. They can have those thoughts. But I try to be a little more respectful when it comes to when it comes to certain societies and cultures, well, actually all cultures, especially when I'm digging stuff up, I'm not digging up objects, I'm digging up things that people owned and made and cared for. And some archaeologists don't really think that way, and that's a shame, but a lot of them do. And we try to be caring individuals when it comes to stuff like that. But some people still consider what we do to be grave robbing, no matter how we do it. So, anyways, there's that. Okay. These next two are actually another misconception. I totally forgot about a third misconception that people have. Some people seem to think that archaeologists keep what they dig up. And that is not the case. We do not keep what we dig up. We don't pick something up off the ground, document it, stuff it in our pocket, go home and sell it on eBay. Okay? But some people think that. So, these next two questions. Do you have a personal collection of artifacts, whether from random finds or dig sites? Now, that question was asked and was immediately answered by someone telling you that, whoever it was at Figmint77, that is considered looting, and that is considered looting. However, with that being said, there's a lot of people whose blood pressure just shot up because I said however in regards to this question. I don't have a collection of artifacts, but there are plenty of people out there who are archaeologists who originally started off as kids finding things in fields, and that was their initial spark to get them into archaeology. And though they were doing things that were wrong because they were taking things out of context, that doesn't necessarily mean that wasn't for a good cause. It created the spark to get them into archaeology, which is good. They probably shouldn't be proud that they have that collection, but it's definitely a part of who they are. With that being said as well, there are plenty of institutions out there that have what are called unprovenienced artifacts. And what that is artifacts that don't have provenience, obviously, but basically the context in which they were found. Basically looting. People would take things and then turn them into museums or universities or stuff like that. Matter of fact, the college and the university that I went to both had collections of stuff that was turned into them that didn't have any kind of context, that is then used for students to learn on. If you or someone you know has a bunch of artifacts that they are trying to get rid of, that they looted from somewhere, or that they, didn't know any better but took, they can always turn it into their local university if it has an anthropology department with some archaeologists on staff, to be used as training material. So there you go. This then leads into the next question, which is, have you ever found an artifact worth more than $20,000? I don't know why that number, but $20,000. Maybe? I don't know. The thing about archaeology and the thing about artifacts is that artifacts, their intrinsic value is based on their context, at least to an archaeologist. I don't know if I've ever found anything that would have been appraised at that much. That seems like an awful lot. I would think that something that I found that would be appraised at any kind of value over its value to society was probably a Clovis point that I found several years ago on a survey. I don't know what those go for. Look them up on eBay. Then they might go for, I don't think they go for $20,000. If they do, I'm in the wrong profession. All right. Now, let's get to some questions. How come Sept and Oct means 7 and 8, yet September and October are the 9th and 10th months? I know it has something to do with the Roman calendar. I don't know. I don't know. Moving on. What is your favorite ice cream flavor? Oh man, this is going to really disappoint a lot of you. I actually like vanilla, but not like the plain vanilla that you get, you know, the cheapy stuff. I'm talking like the really intense vanilla, like the French vanilla or the vanilla bean vanilla. Yeah, I really like that stuff. I'm not a big chocolate fan, which is probably going to freak a lot of you out, but yeah, vanilla. Lots of really good options of vanilla. Ooh, or, you know, those strawberry shortcake ice cream pops, the ones with the like the little crunchy things on the outside. Yeah, those are really good too. Oh, I grew up with the, you know, the little cups, the little plastic cups with the vanilla, and it's got like the swirls of strawberry in there, and it's got like a wooden spoon with it that, you know, you eat, and the wooden spoon kind of gives it a little bit of like a wood taste to it, but it kind of enhances it. Anyways, going on a rant. Those two, those little cups, those are, but that's, I think, more of a nostalgia thing. But yeah, it's vanilla, which is probably really disappointing. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. The terrain is absolutely gorgeous. I'm out here on the bike, and it is just a nice freaking day. It is wonderful out here. So I'm doing great. I hope you're doing great too. All of you, every single one of you. You know what? Tell you what. Let's go back to Field Daskalos and have him answer some more questions.
Moving on. Another one. Another couple of questions that are sort of linked together. How do archaeologists deal with sites that may have links to presently existing indigenous groups? Are the groups consulted? What kind of agreements are expected / common? And what happens if there's an archaeological site discovered where people are currently living? Both of those are pretty close together in regards to how I'm going to answer it. In America, we have what is called the Section 106 process, which is a very detailed process in which you have to go through before you undertake any kind of archaeological project, whether it's excavation, survey, anything, and usually excavation. And part of that is contacting current groups alive today that have any kind of connection with where you are going to be. What that means is, it's a lot more than you think. Indigenous groups that claim that they are descendants of the people that you might be running into as you do stuff, and other interest groups that have general interests in the area, like, I don't know, like a nature watch group or something like that, okay? Also with people that are currently living there, to a lesser degree, all right? In the past, Delphi is a really good example. The site at Delphi was actually being inhabited by people when they found Delphi, when they rediscovered Delphi, and they actually moved the people down the hill. They built them all new houses and everything and moved them down the hill. We don't really do that nowadays. Archaeological sites existing where people are living is a lot more common than you think, okay? If you live in America and you live in a fairly large town, at any point in time as you're moving around town, there is probably a site under your feet. And a lot of archaeologists probably are not going to like the fact that I'm saying that, because they don't want people looking for this stuff, and you should not be digging stuff up, okay? But the population density in the Americas prior to contact rivaled that of Europe. There were very dense population centers, and there was widespread population in the Americas. So when we're talking about archaeological sites where people currently live, congratulations, that's pretty much everywhere. All right? So what happens if there's a site? It was a really dusty day, by the way, sorry. What happens if there's a site where people are currently living? Well, you go through the Section 106 process. Generally speaking, you're not going to move the site. You're not going to do things there unless it's super important, so I wouldn't even worry about it. Moving on, next section. I like to call this one Being an Archaeologist. And this is going to be general questions about what it's like to be an archaeologist. First one up, what's it like being an archaeologist? Well, kind of cool. If you have a exploratory spirit, archaeology is definitely a cool thing to do. If you're the type of person that recognizes patterns a lot, archaeology is a good thing to do. If you're very inquisitive and you can figure things out from clues, like a detective, archaeology is the thing to do. If you like any of those things, you'll enjoy archaeology. The downsides to archaeology is that, one, it's not always a stable career choice. Okay, and I'll get to that a little bit later on. And two, it's hard on the body, especially CRM work. I often joke that what you get for your 10-year anniversary at a CRM firm is new knees. And it would be a joke if it weren't true. And it is very true. I know a lot of people with really bad knees, really bad hips, and have had to have them replaced and stuff. So being an archaeologist has its ups and downs. Generally speaking, though, it's a pretty cool thing to do, especially if you're out somewhere and you don't know a lot of people. You can just blurt out, "I'm an archaeologist," and immediately deflect a bunch of dinosaur questions. But meet a lot of really cool people. Anyways, moving on. As an archaeologist, where have you worked, excavated so far in your career? The Southwest United States is where I've worked exclusively in my career. Southwest archaeology pays the bills. So there's usually a lot of work that needs to be done. Sometimes it's pretty gross and rough, but generally speaking, Southwest America is a pretty good gig to have as an archaeologist because there's work to be done. These next two are also put together because they're very similar. This kind of goes along with the archaeology Minecraft videos I did. So did you break, lost any artifact? So have you broken or lost any artifacts, or do you know someone who has? Follow that with, they talk about my Minecraft series. Have you witnessed have you witnessed you or anyone part of an excavation destroy or harm an artifact or similar? Was it impactful? How devastating? Okay, and something to keep in mind is that artifacts are never truly destroyed or broken. I mean, we can break them. You break sherds open to see the inside, usually a small corner or something, so that you don't destroy the whole thing. That's part of the analysis thing. But if you have a projectile point and it's broken in half on accident because your shovel hits it, well, now you just have two fragments of a projectile point. So things get broken all the time. It's the way of the world. We break things all the time, whether by accident or on purpose, but things are never lost. You don't lose them. They're not, you don't break something and suddenly, can't use it anymore, can't get any good information off of it. Things can get washed downhill, washed away, sherds can be broken, but unless you take a sherd and actually grind it into powder, it's not truly lost. Nothing is ever truly lost. It's always still here, maybe in a different form, but it's still here. So to kind of answer your questions, no, I've never lost any artifacts. Have I broken some? Oh yeah, all the time. When you say stuff like that, though, you're thinking of like pots that are broken, and that's no, we don't do that. All right. What do you know about the people you study that would most surprise the general public? Well, they're a lot like us. That's a big one. A lot of people seem to think of people in the past a very specific way. It doesn't help that archaeology focused a lot on royalty and palaces and things like that, and really sort of forgot about the everyday person. But when we think of, like, for example, a medieval peasant, we think of somebody who's dirty and bad teeth and never leaves their area. But that's not necessarily true. we know of people who moved around and things like that. They're just like us. They appreciate things. They like art. They like
good food.
They repair clothing. Anyways, that's, I think, what would surprise most people is that there's usually really specific preconceived notions about people in the past, and they're kind of it's like a whole different animal from us, but they're just us living in a different time. That's what I would think would. I don't know, maybe it doesn't surprise you. Maybe I'm full of it.
Let's break up the monotony and check in with Minecraft Daskalos and see what he's up to. All right, so the next couple of them is about the how and why of Minecraft. So, how did you choose Minecraft as the game you play for your channel? How did you get into Minecraft? What was your experience? What got you interested into Minecraft? And another one there, how long have you been playing Minecraft? So I started playing Minecraft probably about 6 to 9 months before I released my first Minecraft video. And the way I got into it was I watch some people on YouTube, and one of the people I watch a lot is Kevin O'Reilly, or Call Me Kevin. If you don't watch his channel, you should. He's hilarious. Anyways, he had a few Minecraft episodes where he did stuff in Minecraft, different little challenges and stuff. And because I watched that, of course, YouTube picked up on the algorithm and sort of suggested other Minecraft stuff. And I started noticing all this stuff from all these other creators where you could build crazy things. And so I thought, I wonder if anyone has ever built, insert whatever, Knossos or Mycenae, Pylos, in Minecraft. And so I did a search, and I found that people had done stuff in the style of Mycenae in Greece, and I've seen people have done stuff from like classical period Greece, but nothing really like, hey, today we're gonna build, Pylos or whatever, kind of what I'm doing basically. And so I got the game and I started playing with it to sort of figure out what all you could do with it, kind of get a good feel for it. Because the last thing I wanted to do was film my very first jump into Minecraft. And I'll tell you right now, I absolutely 100% regret doing that. I really should have filmed that first dive into Minecraft because it was hilarious. I got wrecked by every single mob in the middle of the night you could think of, because I thought I was going to build like a 15 by 15 giant house or something on my first day. Yeah, I was punching stone to get it, not using a pickaxe and stuff. It was dumb. It was really dumb, but it was hilarious thinking back at it, back on it. And I was literally, I must have died 24 times in the course of that first night on Minecraft until I figured out, like, dude, no, 4x4 hole in the ground with a roof over it, and you wait 10 minutes and come back out. Yeah, there was a lot of cursing, and a lot of, what am I doing? And how is this a kid's game? That kind of thing. And yeah, and I realized that it's not a kid's game. It is absolutely, I mean, it can be. You can play it like that, but that's a nice thing about Minecraft is it's so open and it's whatever you want to make it. And so yeah, that was kind of what got me interested in it. I'd seen other people doing stuff. I thought, hey, I would really like to rebuild, Mycenae in Greece in Minecraft, and I got it to check its viability on doing that. And I don't know, maybe someday I'll take you into that first world. I think I still have it on my laptop somewhere. It's it is what it is. But yeah, that's how I got into Minecraft, and that's why I chose it for my channel, because there's no other real game out there that allows you to create things like that the way this one does. Yeah, everything's super blocky, but you could go super crazy modded with it and make things that look excellent. I mean, I'm not going to do modded stuff, and that's one of the questions later on. Actually, why don't we jump into that question now? Will you ever consider Minecraft mods to add better blocks? And the answer is no. And I've said this a few times before, and for those of you who are new here, or those of you who may have missed it, my whole sort of purpose for this is to make this completely accessible. And what I mean by that is I want anyone, whether they have Minecraft on a console, Minecraft on a 10-year-old PC, or a 10-year-old laptop like how I started, or even a mobile version of Minecraft, I want them to be able to see what I'm doing and do it themselves, or at least be able to do it themselves. I want someone to say, I can build Pylos just like how he's doing it, or I can build whatever you want to build. And I don't want it to be one of those things where somebody looks at my channel and says, well, I could do that if I had those mods, or if my computer could run those mods. I want it to be accessible to everyone, everywhere. So yeah, anyways, let's move on. All right, next question. What's it like being the best Minecraft YouTuber in history? Well, flattery will get you everywhere. I don't think I'm the best Minecraft YouTuber in history. I just think I'm doing something unique, something that other people haven't done. And I think that that maybe that makes me sort of stand out from a lot of people. Maybe that makes me unique. Maybe that makes me the first of my kind. Hopefully I'm the first of my kind. But I don't think it really makes me the best Minecraft YouTuber out there. I'm just a little ahead of the game. I saw an opening there and I took it. With that being said, there are other people out there doing archaeology-based Minecraft stuff. And I've seen a lot of their stuff. Matter of fact, one or two of them at least subscribe to this channel. And it's kind of a shame that I blew up and they haven't. But I can kind of see the appeal of what I'm doing versus what some other people might be doing. That's not to say that you shouldn't check out their channels. You absolutely should. There's lots of really, really good information. But yeah, I mean, what's it like being the best Minecraft YouTuber in history? I don't know. Maybe you should ask them. Oh, this guy. Tell you what, let's answer some questions. Let's do some interpretation questions, because a lot of people ask about what an interpretive guide is, because I have it in all my intros and stuff, and there's a lot of questions in my comments section about that. So we're going to address that here. With this lump of questions here, you mentioned you're a certified interpretive guide. I'm curious about what that entails, what your focus is in that role. What do you do as an interpretive guide? What is an interpretive guide, and how do you become one? And so what an interpretive guide is, well, if you've ever been to a national park or historical site or something like that, and you've taken a tour by somebody who's leading you around, showing you things and telling you more than what maybe the guidebook might say or something like that, that's an interpretive guide. So if you've ever been to like Mesa Verde and taken a ranger-led guide of Cliff Palace, you were being led by an interpretive guide or interpretive ranger, kind of the same job. There's a couple little differences, but for the most part, it's the same job. So, yeah, that's what I did. I did that for the National Park Service exclusively for quite a while. Like I mentioned in my intro, I worked in Wyoming, Virgin Islands, New Mexico, which is where I'm at now, which I really like New Mexico. And I've done all kinds of different things. I've talked about the engineering and labor hours it goes into to build structures with the ancestral Puebloans. I've talked about historical stuff. I've led people on hikes. I've taken them snorkeling, stuff like that. It's all about interpreting the natural and cultural world for the public, basically. So it's sort of an educational role, but you basically just do that. And to become one, you apply. I mean, there's no real special training. If you go to the Park Service, they usually train you on the job. So, yeah. I mean, you do have to have some sort of conversational, ability. but generally speaking, you get trained on how to do it. So, anyways, let's move on. Actually, you know what? Tell you what, let's get back to Minecraft Doscalos, and we'll answer more questions later. Minecraft Doscalos, take it away. This one pops up a lot. Would you ever join Hermitcraft or any of the other big SMPs? Well, something to that effect pops up all the time. From what I'm to understand, Hermitcraft, I think everyone on the server has to agree to let you in or something. I don't know. Look, I don't think I'm Hermitcraft material anyways, but I think they all have to like vote you in or something. And I think I say fuck too much for them to vote me in anyways. And then I think the other big SMPs though, like Empires, I think that would be a good fit. I mean, we all know what Empire I'd be building on it. I don't know if I'd be violent on it though, like the Mycenaeans would. Maybe wage war, but there's a lot of people on those servers that could whoop me good because, you know, I'm only a year and some odd months into playing the game. I'm still a newbie. But would I ever join Hermitcraft or any of the other big SMPs? I don't know. You know, the thing is I did this channel to sort of merge entertainment with education and do some things. I mean, that's why I do a lot of the things that I do. And I don't know if I could do that on a big server like that. Maybe. Or maybe it would just be an offshoot series for you guys to watch. You know? I did bring up a while back the idea of doing sort of more of a role play type story driven series, and I'm actually working on that now, and I think you guys will like it. But even that one we're still doing some slight educational parts to it. And I don't know, would I ever join any of them? I mean, if they extended the offer, maybe. I don't see them extending the offer. I'm just some little YouTuber. You know, I've got 19,500 subscribers, and all because of, you know, one short series that blew up. And so I don't think that they would extend an offer. But I don't know. Maybe you guys can start pestering them. Don't do that. Don't harass them to put some random YouTuber on their SMP. But I don't know. Maybe. I wonder who I'd get along with. I feel like I'd get along with Doc. I don't think I'd get along with, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who I'd get along with, but I bet there'd be a few that I would get along with. Joel, maybe. Oh my God, we'd probably wreck some shit. Anyways, moving on. How long? Oh, no, I already did that one. How do you play Minecraft off camera? So there's like different types of Minecrafters, you know, like redstoners and explorers and speedrunners and builders and I don't know, survivalists and hardcore and stuff like that. And contrary to the Bronze Age series that I'm doing, I don't consider myself to be a builder. I do kind of like doing stuff like that because I'm naturally a creative person, but I honestly consider myself to be an explorer. My normal world that I have 4 maps that are the largest that they can go, so the most area that they can cover, and I have the entirety of those filled out with a little book on a lectern with all the coordinates of all the really cool places that I want to go explore. And it's, you know, it's a lot of really cool stuff out there. The world generation in this game is amazing. Some of the stuff that generates, you're just like, what? How did that even, like, stuff that you don't find in the real world, of course. And I think a lot of it's super cool. There's a lot of really cool world generation out there, and for a really blocky game, it can be quite stunning to see it. And especially if you got like shaders on and stuff like that, it gets even more stunning to see some of these things. So I would consider myself an explorer off camera on Minecraft. I like building a base, getting a bunch of supplies, getting a boat, getting a bed, and just going off in a direction with a map and filling out maps and checking places out. And that's not surprising seeing that I'm an archaeologist, because archaeology kind of satiates that need to explore. Moving on. What's your least favorite Minecraft update? Oh man, this is gonna piss a lot of people off. Well, first off, let me just tell you, I started shortly after the Caves and Cliffs update. So prior to that, I don't know of any of the other updates. That's my baseline, is the Caves and Cliffs, which is insane by itself. But my least favorite Minecraft update has got to be the cherry trees. I think they're ugly. I honestly think they're ugly. I think the fact that they drop leaves and petals and stuff like that when none of the other trees do is dumb. Pink wood, I have no use for it.
It's not pink. It's like a lightish red.
I would have rather some other type of wood if they were going to do it, or some other type of tree, but yeah, I don't like the cherry trees. I know there's a lot of people that are like all about it and love them, but I don't. Nope, sure don't. I also don't like the mangroves, but not for the reason you think. A lot of people don't like the mangroves because they're hard to harvest. I don't like the mangroves because they're not that realistic. That's a whole another discussion for another time.
What would you describe as the central aspect of your methodology? I don't know. I just do what feels right. I don't know. And I've read that question multiple times in the past and thought about it, and I don't really have a good answer for you. I don't really have a central aspect of my methodology. What is most important to your specific field? I guess documentation, but that wouldn't be a central aspect of my methodology. My personal methodology when it comes to doing things like this is accessibility, making things, taking academic papers that are full of $10 words and crunching that down into 10 to 15 minute, easily digestible things, videos, whatever, that anyone, no matter your age or your education level, can take in and synthesize in your brain and understand things. My personal methodology is that I take these things that really aren't made for mass consumption because they're, well, I'll get into that maybe in some other video, and making it easy and accessible for everyone. I know that's not the answer to your question, but I can't really answer your question. I don't really know. How long have you been an archaeologist? It's 2023. 10, 11 years?
And no new knees yet. Yet? Oh. Yet.
Thing is, I haven't been an archaeologist the entire time. It's more been like a part-time thing. It's a contract thing. So I work for a little bit and not work, and then work for a little bit and not work. You got to stay bankable. You got to do other things. Given that most sciences involve a great deal of collaboration, what's the most interesting sort of person you've worked with on a dig or project, and what for? Oh, I don't collaborate. We don't. We're out in the field. We're doing our thing. I'm sure people in the office collaborate, but us in the field, we don't collaborate. Why would we collaborate? We don't need any other brains on that. All jokes aside, no, I don't collaborate. We really don't collaborate. We don't have like biologists working with us. We might run into one of them out there. Might shoot the shit a little bit, but yeah, we don't have people with us that are collaborating. So that's definitely an office thing. So yeah. Do you get to travel a lot as an archaeologist? Yes. Yes, you do, but probably not to places you want to. Anyways, moving on. Do you have a day job, or is archaeology well paying enough? Well, right now I'm only doing archaeology. Before I was doing other stuff. I try to, again, I've said this before, I try to stay bankable. I try to have other skills in which I can do things. So I'm a motorcycle mechanic. I do that from time to time. I've worked retail before. I've worked for the National Park Service as an interpretive park guide. I do a slew of things with archaeology as the sort of constant in the background. That's mostly because when I came into archaeology, there wasn't a lot of work to be had. So you had to make ends meet doing other things. Now there's a lot more work, but it's finicky. We might not have that in the future. So if you decide to take on archaeology as a career, make sure you have other skills and other options to do stuff. As for that day job, what I've done the longest while doing archaeology is I actually worked for a company, some of you have probably heard of it, called Cycle Gear, selling motorcycle gear, safety gear and motorcycle accessories and things like that. Motorcycling is a part of my life. Obviously, I have the motorcycling series, more coming by the way. But yes, day job is a definite if you well, at least skills to have a day job. So let's get into some standard questions. Do you in all caps, think Atlantis was a real place? And if so, where do you think it most likely was? Professional opinion and personal wish. I want to believe. Any classicist who has done any kind of studying in the classical world knows that a lot of the Greek authors and poets and stuff like that did this thing where they added a lot of detail to certain stuff to make it to sort of show off. Anyone who has read anything about Atlantis, and I don't mean any of the stuff that's been published later, I'm talking about the stuff that was the Greek stuff, would know that he starts off saying, we are going to talk about a fictional place. We're going to call it Atlantis. It was probably inspired by a couple different places. Thera, I've heard, is a suggestion for places that inspired it. There's also another place that the name totally escapes me, but it was also flooded and completely buried as well, by water and silt and stuff like that. Do I think Atlantis was a real place? No, I don't. And that's based off of what I know as being a classicist. So I'm sorry to have completely, shit on your dream. But no, I'm sorry. I don't think it was a real place. I think it was a place that was inspired, and it was sort of an amalgam of other places. But I don't think it was real. Is your expertise primarily confined to ancient Greece, or are there other regions, periods of history? Working in the American Southwest, I know a little bit about Hohokam stuff, a little bit about ancestral Pueblo stuff. That's about it. Ancient Greece is sort of my passion, so obviously I'm going to know a lot about ancient Greece. Slightly more silly question. Have you watched any of The Curse of Oak Island? Oh God, yes. I have a friend who's obsessed with that. Look, here's the thing. Here's my professional and or personal opinion on it, because that's what you're asking for. If there was anything there, we can't do anything with it now because too many ding-dongs have been out there digging like idiots and have screwed up the context royally of anything that was there. So Oak Island, yeah, you can thank a bunch of gung-ho idiots for screwing up a bunch of the context there. We will probably never know what was going on there. So, but hey, it makes for good TV, right? That was kind of mean. I didn't mean for it to sound mean, but yeah, a bunch of idiots with shovels and backhoes and things like that. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing. What topics other than archaeology are you interested / knowledgeable in? Motorcycles. I actually have a pretty extensive knowledge on motorcycles, specifically vintage Japanese motorcycles, which is odd. But yes, I for years and years and years have been picking up non-running junked motorcycles, getting them running, riding the crap out of them, and then turning around and selling them. So yeah, motorcycles is something I'm interested and knowledgeable in. I also write as well. I mean, obviously, because I'm not that kind of writing, like fiction. I also write fiction. I actually wrote a book a while back. I'm not too pleased with it, so don't ask me about it because I'm not going to tell you about it. I have a couple other books that I'm sort of writing. I have a collection of short stories that I'm writing and a couple of novellas that I'd like to eventually finish. It's a lot of started projects that have never finished. Same thing with motorcycles, funny enough. Don't get me started on that. Okay.
Question time. Let's do questions. Let's do. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's do some rapid fire ones. What country do you live in? The United States of America. How old are you? Old enough. What's your favorite color? Oh, I don't really have a favorite color. It depends on what I'm doing, I guess. Favorite color of like car? I guess something obnoxious like yellow or orange. Or maybe, I don't know. Favorite color like clothes, if I'm like adding something to my clothes, like a tie or something like that, purple, because it just, I don't know, it stands out, it's kind of cool. Anyways, yeah, I don't really have a favorite color. Boxers or briefs? Awfully bold of you to assume I wear underwear. I'm not answering that. Anyways, let's go back to Field Vasculos.
Moving on. Post-excavation of a dig site, how exactly do archaeologists go about the interpretation process? Okay, yeah, and okay. And like the recreation of the ancient site. So, how would I answer this? Archaeologists both play a role and don't play a role in the interpretation of a site. And what I mean by that is, they will excavate and they will do reports and they'll publish on an excavation with the data that they're doing. Sometimes it's synthesization. Can I not say that word? Synthesization. Oh wow, I really can't say that word. It was also very cold today too. My mouth is still sort of like. Anyways, they will also synthesize data into maps and things like that, and then they will give some sort of type of interpretation. However, interpretation is wildly variable, and other archaeologists can take that same data, synthesize it as well, same stuff, and come up with completely different interpretations. So when I say archaeologists do both the interpretation and they don't, it's weird. It's really weird. It's very complicated. Archaeologists are generally speaking a sort of pessimistic group, and they really like to tell other archaeologists that they're wrong, which I think is one of the biggest downfalls of the career of the business, if you could call it a business. But yeah, it's kind of weird when it comes to how they go about the interpretation and who does what. So yeah, it's kind of weird. It's a hard question to answer because there's a lot of stuff that really goes into it. Next two I'm going to clump together. Dream place to study, dream archaeological projects, dream excavation. To be honest, I would be happy with any Bronze Age, whether it's palatial complex or not, Aegean archaeological site. I would love to excavate a Pylos with Professor Jack Davis. University of Cincinnati won't take me because I don't know Latin. yeah. Classics are weird like that. Yeah, Pylos, Mycenae, any of the Bronze Age stuff. I might be working with a set of data from another Bronze Age site. Maybe, maybe not. Coming up soon. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, someplace in Greece. Bronze Age. Oh, what would be really nice? I would love to do, this is going to sound stupid, 100% survey of Kephallonia and Ithaca, both, for personal reasons, but Odysseus is sort of my spirit animal. And he is an animal, by the way. All right, what's the funniest thing you do in your profession that no one knows about? Shit in the woods? I don't know. We don't really... Archaeologists are serious people. I don't know. Shit in the woods. How can I learn more about interpreting the odd bits and pieces that I dig up in my garden? What are you digging up in your garden? I don't know. I would leave the odds, bits, and pieces that you dig up in your garden there. You can always call your local university. I'm sure this is a joke question, but if it's not, call your local university. I'm sure they have an anthropology department with an archaeologist on staff who knows about the area, and they can, don't bring it into them, whatever you do, for God's sakes, okay? Leave it where it is, take pictures, bring the pictures into them. Because if you bring the stuff into them, you're already going to be pissing them off, and they're not gonna want to help with you. Moving on. What items of our current day would be best preserved in, say, 1,000 years from now? Railroad ties? Probably. Underground bunkers? Ooh, those really heavy coffins that people get buried in, like the ones that are made out of like steel and stuff, especially in drier climates like southern Arizona, or stuff like probably, if I had to guess. Stoneworks, big stoneworks, though most buildings nowadays are built out of concrete or just like foam and wood. That stuff won't last. But I would say probably, railroad ties. Those seem to last for a really good long time. Things that are buried in dry climates. So you don't have to worry about rust or bacteria or things like that eating it up. Probably stuff like that. Is there much crossover between archaeology and philology? Well, it depends. It really depends on what you're doing in archaeology. That is a question that has a lot of various answers to it. There is crossover if you're doing a lot of research, and I suspect there's probably a lot of crossover depending on where you're working. But yeah, that's a tough one to answer. What are some of your most used tools at dig sites? Oh, trowels. And I don't have any of the trowels on me. So other Daskalos, show them the trowels. What the fuck are you? See what I gotta work with? Okay. Anyways, moving on. Freak. What time period, geographic place is your specialization? I don't actually have a specialization. I have kind of a broad reach. So the American Southwest is a sort of specialization of mine because I work there a lot. And then, of course, ancient Greece is a sort of a specialization because I'm well studied on it, but I don't really have a specific specialization. Why is Greek archaeology your favorite kind of archaeology? because it is. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, because it's better than Roman. Did you ever watch the British show Time Team? And your thoughts? You know, I saw this question and I decided to watch an episode. I got about 30 seconds into it and just couldn't stand it anymore. Not because it's a crap show or anything like that. I just wasn't really interested in what they were talking about. And it seems that every time I try to watch it, it just doesn't really capture my attention. I think that gone are the days of really long documentaries or documentaries that aren't entertaining, I guess, to the modern audience. I think things like what I'm doing is probably going to be the future of that kind of stuff. Bite-sized stuff with entertainment value to it is probably going to be the way to go. I try to watch Time Team. I can't do it. I'm sorry. It doesn't capture my attention, and I just don't really care for it. So, sorry, especially if you like it. I'm really sorry. If you like it, that's awesome. It's not really for me. And finally, actually, that was the last one. So I'm going to pack it in now and turn it back over to Daskalos on some hilltop somewhere. I don't know where you're at. What are you doing? Anyways, he'll take it from here. Good night.
Good night. Wait, why am I waving like an idiot? Okay, let's check in with Minecraft Daskalos, who sounds vaguely sick. Are there other games that you play besides Minecraft? Yes, there are other games that I play besides Minecraft. I have a PS4 that I have plenty of games for that I absolutely love. I like The Last of Us. I don't know if any of you have ever played Hellblade. Excellent game, by the way. Lots and lots and lots of other games. Of course, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I love cruising around the Aegean in a trireme. It still bothers me that they don't have Greek as a language option in that. I mean, I get that they're not going to put ancient Greek in there, but at least put modern Greek in there, for God's sakes. I mean, come on. But yeah, there are all kinds of other games that I play besides Minecraft. The one that I really like is, what is that one called? Endless Sky. Yeah, it's like a top-down sort of space travel one. It's really addicting because you can kind of cruise all around and do all kinds of different things. But I always end up going to the same system and just wrecking pirates or just, stealing their ships after they've been taken out, and then selling them and getting a ridiculous amount of money. So I go a little ways into the story, and then I just start doing that. I start spamming it a lot. But there are a lot of other games I play. I bought Choo Choo Charles the moment it came out. I'd been following that for a while because the premise was just ridiculous. I still haven't played it, but I definitely want to. And there's a lot of other games that I have that I just haven't really given a lot of love to, mostly because a lot of my time has been either working or school or Minecraft, because the Minecraft videos do take a long time to make. They don't take nearly as much time as, like, let's say the boat building one, or anything like that. So let's move on to questions in particular about YouTube. That's a good segue into the YouTube questions. What was it like to suddenly have one of your videos just get massive amounts of views? What were you thinking at the time? And look, you're going to have a lot of YouTubers sit there and be like, oh, I couldn't believe it. I never thought that I'd ever blow up, blah, blah, and they're all full of it. And that's why they make a YouTube channel, because they want to get a lot of views and they want to do cool things and get all their weird little sort of semi-famous, corner of YouTube. And when I had one of the videos blow up, I thought, yeah, finally, people are discovering me and they're really, finding what I make to be captivating and stuff like that. And that was kind of what I was going for with it. I will say that I was disappointed that it was not the Bronze Age, series. The excavation series while a cool series, was not really sort of my pride and joy. My pride and joy was the Bronze Age one. So that was a little disappointing, but I mean, I'll take it. I'll take the win there. And, you know, I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, my friends and I were freaking out that it was just skyrocketing so fast. I mean, I went from a little over 250 subscribers to 10,000 in a matter of like a week or so, which is insane. That rate of growth is absolutely insane. And I kind of wish that it would have hit a little bit later, because I was still figuring out the whole how to make YouTube videos type thing. So a lot of the people's first, you know, impression of me was somebody who was sort of just bumbling around trying to figure it out. And don't get me wrong, I'm still bumbling around trying to figure it out. But I was bumbling around a lot more back then. Like it was like a year and a half ago, and it wasn't even that. It was like a couple months ago, for God's sakes. Anyways, moving on. How did you feel when the first one came out and went viral? I mean, I just kind of answered that. But again, I thought it was cool. I thought it was great. I thought it was well deserved, because everyone wants to be doing that. But yeah. By the way, I love your Bronze Age videos. Well, thank you. I would have preferred that one to go viral. If you could, would you react to the Indiana Jones movies? I'd rather not. For a couple of reasons. One, Indiana Jones gets a lot of hate, and let's face it, he's not a good archaeologist. But really, when you think about it, right, he's an archaeologist in the 30s and 40s. And so back then, they were still kind of swashbuckling types. I mean, they were getting better, but let's face it, they were still kind of swashbuckling types. And so it's not that far off from reality, but at the same time, like, he gets a lot of hate. He can continue to get hate from other people. I don't think I'll do that. Will you be doing any more of your model building videos? Yes, I will. It's kind of sad, you know, I'm actually looking at it right now. I can see it. Well, I'm not looking at it, I'm doing this, but it's off the side of my desk here. And, you know, it's like the skeleton of a beached whale, man. It's just sitting there, all skinless. And, you know, yeah, I definitely want to do it. Mostly also because I want this model to be done, because I kind of want a model of a bi-ream. Yeah, I will. I really do want. I gotta try a couple things out. I gotta test out some super glue to make sure it's not going to soak through the wood and be visible on the outside. And if it won't, then I think I can get a lot of skinning on the boat done. If not, it's going to go really slow because I'm going to have to use the wood glue. And anyway, you don't want to hear this. It's fine. Yes, there will be more model building videos in the future once I get around to it. And I don't know, maybe I got some time. I got some downtime. Maybe I'll do that this week. I don't know. We'll see. Question time. Let's go ahead and finish off these random questions. Let's see here. Waffle or pancake? I don't know. Waffle or pancake? I guess waffle? I like the crunch a little bit better than pancakes. Huh. Where do you teach? YouTube. No. This obviously, and then sometimes for the National Park Service as an interpretive guide. But you know, that might change coming up here real soon. We'll find out. We'll see. Where online can I find more information on ancient Greece that I can access right now? 2 places you can go. Academia.edu is a phenomenal site. You can download all kinds of scholarly articles. The other one, which is also really good, is something called JSTOR, JSTOR. You can access them also for free most of the time. I think they allow you like 100 articles per month or whatever. And if you're burning through 100 articles per month, I mean, I'm good on you. But yeah, that's JSTOR and academia.edu is usually what I go for. Tell you what, we'll get to the rest of those here in a second. Let's finish up with Minecraft Askelos. What made you start talking about history and archaeology through video games? And that's a really good question to ask. I mean, my job as an interpretive guide is to talk about archaeology on the site, and I'll get into what an interpretive guide is. And so, talking to the public about archaeology is sort of what I do outside of being an archaeologist. And I found that there was a lot of things that I wanted to talk about, but it was hard to make people visualize things. I can only talk with my hands for so much, and people, anyways, yeah. So I was looking for some way to make the visualizations work, and I think I'd always wanted to do that, but I couldn't really figure it out. I was actually going to make, believe it or not, small dioramas of these places and film that, me making these dioramas of like Pylos and Mycenae and stuff like that, or drawing them in isometric form, because I actually have some isometric paper where you can draw. It's got the little blue lines where you can draw it and everything, and I do pen and ink drawings, and so I thought, well, that'd be kind of cool. And hey, I might still do that. If you guys want to see that, let me know. I might still do stuff like that. That'd be kind of cool. But the video game thing sort of fell in my lap when I was talking about how I saw the Minecraft stuff, and I thought, oh man, that might be the way to go. Because prior to Minecraft, I was thinking I thought the only way to really do the virtual stuff is to learn programming, and I wasn't going to do any of that. There's no freaking way. And so I think the whole talking about history and archaeology through video games is sort of a no-brainer when you're thinking about ways in which to do that. And so, yeah, it's just sort of kind of, I don't know, right place, right time, right algorithm. What are the major accomplishments / milestones you would celebrate in regards to your channel? Well, I've been celebrating when I hit milestones with subscribers. So I did a 50 subscriber edition, a 100 subscriber edition, a 250, and then a 500 to 10K. And then I was going to do 50,000 subscribers, and then 100,000, and then 250,000, and then 500,000, then a million, which is never going to happen, by the way, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so I mean, I would celebrate those. But I think some of the other milestones that I would celebrate, I think the very first time I get invited to some sort of convention would definitely be one to celebrate. If somebody recognized my channel and said, hey, we have this convention of, I don't know, whatever, come on out and take part in a booth. I think that would be super cool. Or take part in a panel. That would be super cool. I think another accomplishment or milestone that I would celebrate, and this is really kind of dumb to admit, I think the first time that somebody would recognize me in public, I think would be something to celebrate, because that means that I'm getting enough sort of widespread dispersal that people recognize me in public and are like, oh, you're this guy, yeah, I think that would be a cool accomplishment to celebrate as well, on top of like the normal YouTube celebration stuff. Anyways, moving on. Next, Riding with the Classics video. Funny you should bring that up. I actually just filmed, I filmed a little while ago, the riding portion of the video, and I need to go out and film the flyby portions of the video. I've got a friend who's going to help me with that, and hopefully we can get it done before it gets too much colder, because once it gets too cold, I don't want to be riding out in that. So the video is recorded. The riding portion of the video is recorded. It's about an hour long. I think book 2 is going to be very similar in length to book 1 of the Iliad, and so you're looking at probably a three episode chunk. So 3 more episodes will be coming soon once I can get those flyby videos. I think what I'll do though, if the weather gets too cold and I can't get the flyby videos, I think I'll just pop the video out anyways, because I do 2 camera shots. One sort of a chest mount, a high chest mount, so you can see where I'm riding, and one down low looking behind me, so you can see me shifting, and you can also see, you know, stuff behind me. And so I think, you know, if I can't get the flyby shots, I'll just pop the video out with just those 2 angles. But I would prefer the flyby shots. Because, you know, that's what kind of makes them sort of dynamic and cool, and I think that sort of breaks up the monotony of just switching back and forth between 2 camera shots too. But yeah, coming soon. How did you come up with the Daskalos name? I assume you're not Greek descendant, so is it meant to represent something else? So I have a very close I have a family, a Greek family that's very close to me. They pretty much, I mean, I'm like practically adopted by them. And I met the son a long time ago. And this is when I was still, this is, you know, me, I know about ancient Greece and stuff like that. And he was from Greece, and, you know, born and raised, and came over here, I think at like age 9 or something like that. And so we would talk about Greece, and I would tell him about ancient Greece. And apparently I was telling him a lot more about his history than he knew. And the Daskalos name, if you don't know, Daskalos means teacher in Greek. And so they started just calling me that. They started calling me teacher. And his parents did, and he did, and so it kind of stuck. And so my nickname with them is Daskalos, and so that's what they call me. Editing Daskalos here. I just wanted to let you know that it was at this time that, well, I kind of go on a little bit of a rant regarding YouTube and naming and all that stuff. It was just a long, dumb story about me and the hurdles I had to jump through to get that name. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to save you the boring, long exposition on me finding the name. Anyways, back to the video. I'm going to use my nickname because it's going to be about Greece, and it's going to be about, well, about ancient Greece, and so I'm going to use Daskalos. Fun fact, though, the ancient Greek word for teacher is not Daskalos. It's actually, well, the D is actually pronounced like a D, apparently. So it's Didaskalos. And I'm not going to do Didaskalos because the nickname for that's just going to be Didi. And I don't want to be Didi. So Daskalos it is. And besides, that's my nickname anyway. So there you have it, Daskalos. And I do believe that is the last question. So I'm going to continue on with this because I'm having fun for a little bit while longer, and I'm going to turn it over to other Daskalos, who is still out in the middle of nowhere, I guess? I don't know. All right, I think that's going to do it for this series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I answered your questions. Now, I'm going to pack up and head home, and of course, we're going to do some glamour shots of the starter house that I built. Matter of fact, why don't we do that now while I pack up? Okay, I'm all packed up, so until next time, I'll see you then. Just kidding, I kind of need this.